The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website.
I'm Doug Jost, host of Live and Learn. As of May 14th of this year, all voters in Nebraska must have an approved ID in order to be able to vote. Stay tuned for details on how you can get an ID if you don't have one and what IDs are acceptable.
Hello, I'm Julie Masters. The unicameral is back in session in 2024 with bills focused on aging issues. Joining me today is Jina Ragland, Associate State Director for AARP Nebraska, with the latest updates. Stay tuned.
Hi everybody, welcome to Live and Learn. I'm Kim Hachiya. On today's segment, we're going to be talking to a film producer from Platte Basin Timelapse about his latest film, Under the Wire. Stay tuned.
Hello everyone and welcome to Live and Learn. I'm your host, Renaud. Aging Partners has a new hire. It's the new community health fitness educator and personal trainer, Tito Vigan. He's here with us today to talk about all of his life and how he ended up at Aging Partners. It's fascinating. Don't go away.
This and more on today's Live and Learn.
Welcome to Live and Learn. As of May 14th of this year, all voters in Nebraska must have an approved ID in order to be able to vote. I'm Doug Jost, host of Live and Learn, and my guest today is Todd Wiltgen. Thanks for being on the program today. Let's talk about that new law.
Well, thanks, Doug, for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and educate voters on the new voter ID law that was recently passed by the legislature.
Let's talk about what IDs are approved or what's available.
Yeah.
Probably people have IDs already that are acceptable.
Yeah, so whether or not you're voting early or on election day, the acceptable forms of ID will be the same. Now, the most common ID that everybody has is the driver's license or a state ID. You know, that's something that 97% of voters have, and we know that based off of the information we have on voter registration in our system. But there are other forms of ID that are also available. Any ID issued by the U.S. government, such as a passport card. Also, if there's an employee ID of a federal agency, a military ID, or a veteran's ID. Those are all valid forms for voting in Nebraska. Also, there's other state of Nebraska IDs. There are state employee ID cards, as well as like the concealed carry permit.
So the key is that they must have your picture.
Correct, yeah. And so the most important thing is name and photo. We're not looking at addresses, we're looking at names and faces.
So what might not be acceptable?
Any membership card or organization ID that's not a government agency, those would not be acceptable. So you have a Costco card or many other American Legion membership card. Those weren't issued by a government agency, so they wouldn't be acceptable. Also, out-of-state driver's licenses or any out-of-state college or university ID, as well as any document without a photo. We really do, again, need a face with the name of the voter.
So if you don't have any of these, how can you get an ID? You have to go to the Department of Motor Vehicles?
Yeah, so the law did provide an avenue for individuals who did not have a photo ID. It gave them the opportunity to obtain a free photo ID for voting purposes from the Department of Motor Vehicles. It will be a state ID card, and they will issue it at no cost for the purposes of voting. And so voters would just need to visit the DMV and obtain, at no cost to them, a photo ID, a state ID.
So what would you have to take to the DMV in order to get this?
Just like any other time, when you go to the DMV, you'll have to take a proof of citizenship that contains your name and your date of birth and your identity. And you'll also have to prove that you're a resident of Nebraska. That usually requires at least 2 documents. But you also will have to provide your Social Security number. And that information is verified by the Social Security Administration to verify your citizenship.
So if you don't have the birth certificate, let's go one
Okay.
step back further
Okay,
yet. Can you get a birth certificate in Nebraska?
Absolutely. So if you were born in Nebraska, the law also provides you the opportunity to get a free birth certificate in order for you to obtain a photo ID for voting. Now that only applies if you were born in Nebraska. You can obtain that birth certificate from the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services, their Vital Records division. And so unfortunately, if you're not born in Nebraska and you need to get a copy of your birth certificate, the best thing to do there would be to fill out a reasonable impediment certificate in lieu of a photo ID to vote.
Let's talk about that that you just mentioned, the reasonable impediment. What exactly is that?
So the reasonable impediment certificate, again, it's based in the law for voter ID. It's a last resort for voters who don't have the ability to get a photo ID. Now there's 3 areas. First, there's if you have a religious objection to being photographed, the law does provide an exception for you.
Okay.
And that would be to complete the reasonable impediment certificate. But there's also 2 other areas. If you are ill or you're injured and you're not able to get a photo ID, you can also fill out that certificate. But also if you're not able to obtain that birth certificate or other documents needed to get a photo ID, you'll be able to fill out a reasonable impediment certificate, and then we'll verify your identity using the signature on the form with the information we have in voter registration.
So is that through the county election commission office?
Yes, all that will be handled by my office at the here in Lancaster County, and I would encourage anybody that has issues that they not wait till election day. Don't hesitate to contact my office if you have a situation that you're unsure of. We definitely want to address those before election day, because that will give us the opportunity, if we need more time, to make arrangements to satisfy the voter ID requirements.
Let's talk about the DMV a little bit. Do you need an appointment then if you're going to the DMV to get your ID? So based off of information that's provided by the DMV, they do highly recommend appointments for Lancaster County for all ID services for the county due to the high demand and the limited resources that they have at their Westo facility. But if you wish to go to another county, can you do that?
Yes. So fortunately, any Nebraska resident can go to any DMV office statewide and obtain their photo IDs. They don't have to go into the office in their county. And this is something that's we're experiencing with staff shortages statewide. This is definitely something that is being utilized statewide for Nebraska residents who need to get a photo ID.
So you mentioned this earlier on, but again, we should emphasize that there's no cost involved in doing this.
Right. So the law did afford the ability to obtain the state ID and that Nebraska birth certificate at no cost. On the application, you have to indicate that you're obtaining it for voting purposes. But yeah, you will not be charged if you indicate that you're doing this for voting purposes.
So it's a little bit different than driver's licenses.
Yeah, and I would just say, if you have any issues, obviously there's a lot of people out there who have given up their driver's licenses, and they may not know that their driver's license is still valid. They should still contact our office to make arrangements to make sure that the photo ID they're using is the proper one to use.
And these photo IDs, you have to renew those like you do driver's licenses?
Yeah, so they're the same requirements that you have to renew them through the Department of Motor Vehicles.
Right. A couple of other clarifications. You have to have the ID to vote. What about registering to vote? Is that required or not?
Well, yes. So they're really two separate. The voter ID law really applies only to election day voting and early voting for voting purposes. It didn't really change. You know, in order to register to vote, you will need to provide documentation that verifies your identity.
Okay.
And most commonly used, it would be it's done through the Department of Motor Vehicles, through the motor voter. That's how we know 97% of voters have a valid driver's license, is because when they registered to vote, they provided their driver's license number.
Right.
There are other ways you can register to vote, but the most common way would be through the Department of Motor Vehicles, online, or in office. But yeah, the first time you vote, if you did, let's say you did send your voter registration by mail, the first time you vote, you'll be asked to show your ID. And that's always been the case. That's not a new practice.
Okay.
That's historically been the case. And that way, your identity was verified when you voted.
And this applies to all elections, municipal as well as state and federal.
Yeah, so the new voter ID law will apply to all elections covered by the Nebraska Election Act, which are elections that I'm responsible for. So yeah, any statewide election, even numbered years, as well as the municipal elections that we hold every odd numbered year here in Lincoln, but also any special election. If we have a bond issue by a school district or any other political subdivision, when we do the vote by mail, you'll have to provide information about your identity, provide a photo ID during that process.
You mentioned coming to your office for more information. Is that the primary source of further information?
Well, there's a couple sources. Obviously, if anybody that has any issues, any questions, and want to talk to a member of my staff, yeah, give us a call. Our phone number is 402-441-7311. But also, there's a website. It's www.voterid, it's voterid.nebraska.gov. And that will include a comprehensive list of all of the IDs that are acceptable, as well as any that are not acceptable.
Todd, anything, any other details that we've skipped over here that people need to know about regarding this law?
Yeah, just to circle back, one of the other valid forms of identification, the law did provide for individuals who are residing in either a nursing home, assisted living facility, or other type of facility that provides care, you can use a face sheet. That's a document that's provided by the administration at the facility. As long as it has your photo and ID, photo and your name, you can also use that to vote. So it doesn't have to be just an ID issued by a government agency. It can also be a healthcare provider where if you reside in a care facility.
That's a good thing to know because a lot of folks might be in that situation.
Yeah, going back, I know a lot of people have moved to Nebraska from other states to be closer with family.
Sure.
And have no intention of ever driving in Nebraska. And so they may have an out-of-state driver's license or a state ID from a former state they lived in. Those aren't valid, but the facility that they live in can issue them a face sheet, is what they call it, and we can accept that as a form of voter identification.
And again, I think emphasize no cost involved in being able to vote.
Absolutely. And again, I'll emphasize it again. Anybody out there who has any concerns, do not wait until Election Day. Contact our office sooner rather than later. We'll work through any challenges that may be facing the voter, and that way we can address them before Election Day.
Todd, this has been very informational. Thanks a lot for bringing us these details of the new ID law.
Awesome. Well, Doug, I appreciate the opportunity to be with you and opportunity to educate your viewers.
Todd, thanks a lot. Remember, it's never too late to live and learn about the new election law in Nebraska.
Aging Partners has relocated to Victory Park, 600 South 70th Street, just east of the old VA hospital. Follow the signs around the south part of the building complex and enter under the Aging Partners sign on the east side of the facility. The new fitness center is equipped with state-of-the-art cardio and fitness equipment. Caseworkers and resource specialists are available to assist you with a variety of aging issues. Enjoy a hot lunchtime meal and engage with others in a variety of activities. Aging Partners, now at Victory Park.
Hi everyone, welcome to Live and Learn. I'm Julie Masters. It is a great pleasure to have Jina Ragland with us today. Jina is the Associate State Director for AARP Nebraska. Jina, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, Julie.
Oh, we're just delighted to have you because of the information that you're going to be providing to our viewers. Now, Jina, for someone who's been working in the field of aging, you know, we've all come to appreciate the skills and abilities that you bring to the table as an advocate for older adults. But for our viewers who may not be as familiar with your tremendous record, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your role with AARP?
Sure. Again, thanks for having me today, Julie.
You're welcome.
Aging has always been a passion of mine. I've had a lot of different jobs in the aging spectrum. In particular, I work for the Department of Insurance and rolled out the Medicare Part D program and have a lot of work and background in Medicare. And then, of course, about 7 years ago, I was able to come over and work for the AARP here in Nebraska. And again, we are an advocacy organization that focuses on those 50 plus across the state, but we also have our national programs also. So again, the advocacy that we do again is for older Nebraskans. We primarily focus on 50 and older, but we also do a lot of intergenerational work with those that are younger also.
In a way, you do some lifespan work when you recognize the value of understanding the needs not only of people 50 and older, but younger. Absolutely.
And caregiving. We're going to talk about some bills with caregiving, but that's one of our biggest priorities. And we all know the sandwich generation and our younger generation are stepping up and taking care of our older parents, adults, aunts, uncles, whatever. And so, again, a lot of the work we do is intergenerational and crosses over.
Excellent. Well, Tina, one of your roles with AARP Nebraska is to track legislation within the state. And what bills have been introduced this year that might be of interest to our viewers?
Thanks, Julie. And there's so many bills. There was over 600 bills that were introduced this session. Obviously, we track all of those bills and we kind of look at those. AARP tends to bring a couple of bills every year or focus bills of areas. Again, one of those is caregiving that we're going to talk about. But again, the focus that we look on is how do these bills affect those that are 50 and older, or again, their family members. And so one of those in particular I wanted to talk about this morning was LB 937, and it is the Caregiver Tax Credit Act. This was introduced by Senator Elliott Bostar here in Lincoln, Legislative District 29. The reason we brought this bill was we know that there are many, many unpaid family caregivers in the state. AARP has done some research on that, and there's approximately 179,000 unpaid family caregivers in the state. And we know the economic value that they bring forward. They provide about $2.8 billion in economic relief for providing that care that's unpaid. We all know that that trickles down then to not having to go to a higher level of care or exceed their resources and then have to have state government pay for their care. So in a nutshell, you know, what this bill does again is to provide some financial relief for those that are providing that unpaid care in their homes as a family caregiver. So beginning in January 2025, there would be up to $2,000 non-refundable tax credit that would be provided again for those that are providing the care. Anyone that has a dementia or an Alzheimer's diagnosis could get up to $3,000.
Wow. Okay.
But there are qualifications, obviously, that come along with that. And you have to have an income of $50,000 or less as a caregiver for a single, or $100,000 or less as a married couple. There also are activities of daily living that are part of the criteria, so you'd have to have need for 2 of those that would be certified by a healthcare provider. And again, you know, really the whole gist of this is not only financial relief for caregivers who might be still working and providing that care in their homes, but also for those that are receiving that care, it allows them again to age in place at the lowest level of care. And when we survey people, 84% of Nebraskans alone want to age in place as they get older. And what we mean by that, again, is being able to stay at where they want to live the rest of their lives out. So again, we're thankful and appreciative of Senator Bostar's work on this. The bill is in the Revenue Committee. And again, we're working to try and get that to the floor and have some debate on that as well.
Terrific. So that's LB 937. So Jina, the next bill that's of interest to, I think, to our viewers is LB 955, which is the gift card payment scams, which is a really important bill. So could you talk a little bit about it and what it means?
Sure, and I appreciate the ability to talk about this, not only the bill itself, but also some of the reasoning behind it. We know older adults are oftentimes more likely to be victims of scam and fraud, not only in Nebraska, but nationally. The Federal Trade Commission estimated or reported a loss of $233 million last year in gift card scams, payment scams alone.
Wow.
And that's all age groups. But again, AARP focuses a lot on fraud and consumer protections and that sort of thing. And so simply what this bill does, I'll tell you that, and then I'll kind of, again, a little bit more of the backstory on it. It basically requires anyone that's selling a gift card or a gift certificate, so any retailer, grocer, any entity that's selling those, they would be required to have a notice that's placed by the gift cards or at the electronic pad when someone's paying for those, that is a notice that triggers to a consumer reminding them that gift cards should not be used as payment or gift cards should not be used as cash. And if they feel like they've been a victim of fraud, that who they should call law enforcement or where that reference should be. So it's a very simple bill, and really the whole incentive there is when someone might be in a panic situation, going to a grocery store or retail entity and buying that gift card or a large quantity of gift cards, it's a trigger for them to maybe stop and pause and think about, is this really real? Is this a fraudulent thing? And if, before you make that purchase, how to stop that. Some examples of that have kind of trickled down or started to that. Basically, we've heard of the grandparent scam,
right?
Where someone may get a phone call saying that their grandson or granddaughter is in somewhere and has gotten themselves in trouble and they're in jail and they need to be bailed out. And the only way to bail them out is to go purchase a large amount of gift cards. And then at that time, you take the number off the back of the gift card, you read it to the person on the phone, and then they take the money. Oh. So that's one instance. It might be a utility company or somebody posing as a utility company calling and saying you have an overdue bill, and the only way to make your bill clean is to go and purchase a gift card. This is a very nice way for scammers to actually take money, and there's no way to trace it, especially if it's an overseas type of situation.
Okay.
If someone's taking from someone's bank account, it's easier to track that back, whereas with gift cards, once you've given them that number, that money is gone. And so we know the number of people that are affected by this and the large amount of money out of pocket they're being scammed for, it continues to grow. And so again, the whole effort here is, taking steps to warn and protect consumers and maybe, again, have them, if they're in that situation, to stop and pause at the time that they're going to purchase that.
Well, and certainly as the population of people 50 and older in Nebraska continues to grow, having this kind of information becomes even more important because the potential for theft will only grow as well.
Right.
So in addition to this bill, there is LB 1166, which is the zoning requirements for accessory dwelling units. And before we get into the bill, can you, for our viewers, tell us what's an accessory dwelling unit?
Right, so Julie, 1166 is the bill we're going to talk about, but again, the backside of this, ADUs is the acronym that's often used. You may hear that more often than accessory dwelling units. But simply and basically what it is, it's a self-contained living unit that's on the same parcel as a single family dwelling that includes its own cooking quarters, sleeping quarters, sanitation facilities. And again, it can be within the building itself or the home itself, or it can be detached in the backyard. And again, but it's all on the same plot or land as the primary single dwelling.
Okay, thank you very much. And the focus of the bill?
The focus of the bill is actually very simple. It just would require all municipalities and cities to adopt zoning regulations that allow a minimum of at least one of these units to be by right on a lot or parcel that contains a single family dwelling. So it's very simple. It just would require that the cities and the municipalities allow those to be in play.
Okay, excellent. And so the next bill that's of interest is LB 852. And this is reimbursement, it's under a bill for reimbursement for durable medical equipment, Medicare supplemental insurance coverage for those on Medicare due to a disability.
Right, and so this bill, again, there's two bills within 852 that I'm going to very briefly talk about here. But basically with 852, it just requires, I think the end goal here is to prevent balance billing for people that might be seeking durable medical equipment. So after you've had a surgical procedure or whatever, we oftentimes know that we need durable medical equipment until we're on our road to recovery. Most DMEs, this isn't really an issue, but there are some bad actors here in the state that this bill is trying to address. Currently, it closes a loophole. If you're a non-participating provider of Medicare in the state under the CMS guidelines, you are not permitted as a DME provider to be held to not charging more than 15% above a Medicare reimbursed charge. So this just kind of closes that loophole. But most importantly for our interest here is there's no balance billing on the consumer. So anything above that 15% can't come back and be charged to the beneficiary. The other part of the bill, and this is something we've been working on for many years, we have a lot of Medicare beneficiaries who are on Medicare due to a disability, so they're under age 65. Our state laws do not require that our supplemental or Medicare supplement insurance are not required to sell them a supplement insurance, again, that offsets that the 20% that Medicare doesn't pay for. So simply what this bill would do is require those insurance companies that do sell Medicare supplement to actually allow a Medicare beneficiary under age 65 to purchase at least one of those products in the schema of things, and not having any pre-existing conditions. And again, that's kind of the big difference that we've had. Once you get to age 65 and are on Medicare, you have your open enrollment where you can purchase any of those products. So this would be for those under 65 with a disability.
And there's another bill that's of interest, and I know we're kind of moving quickly through this, but LB 904, which is the Intergenerational Care Facility Incentive Grant Program.
Right, and this is a pretty simple bill. This was introduced by Senator Anna Wishart here in Lincoln. She brought the bill before, and then COVID kind of hit. But pure and simple, what this does, it's a Intergenerational Care Facility Incentive Grant Program. So it puts money forward from the state where long-term care facilities can partner with a child care facility and actually get grant money up to $100,000 to go and put a child care facility inside of a long-term care facility. The gist of this is again an intergenerational concept that we've talked about. For us, it's not only the benefit to the resident because they're interacting with younger children, but also our younger children are interacting with older adults and working together, learning from each other, also defeating some of the ageism pieces that we've had in our society and community. But I think at the end of the day, the most important thing too to think about is it's a workforce development issue because we are able to bring people into our long-term care facilities to be caregivers to our older residents, but also having child care. We know a lot of rural facilities especially don't have child care, and so people can't come to work. So this way they can bring their children to work. Their children are in the facility with them while their mom or dad are performing their work duties. And we also bring in that resident, so everyone, it's a win-win for everyone.
It really is a win-win, isn't it?
It is.
From an intergenerational standpoint. So if our viewers are interested in learning more about these bills, they can go out to Nebraska Legislature.gov, and that particular link has been appearing frequently, and it's available now that the viewers can go to. So Jina, we have so enjoyed learning from you about the bills that are of interest. Certainly we're going to have to bring you back in 2025 to find out how these turned out, but then also any new bills. So Jina, just in closing, just a quick question that we always ask our guests. What brings you hope?
What brings me hope? Well, I always have to credit my parents, John and Deanna Verzel. they're my lifeline. They've been so good to me from the day that we were brought into this world till now. Their support, their just the supportive nature and being the grateful parents that they are has passed on to me. I'm hopeful that I can be the same parent that they've been, that they were to me, that I can be to my children, but also pass it on to the people that I work with. And most importantly, the people that I work with are over 65 population. Our aging population is continuing to grow. They give me hope because I know that where they've been and where they are today is again something that I aspire to be.
Absolutely. Well, Jina, what gives us hope is the idea that there is someone like you out in the world that's advocating for aging adults in Nebraska, not only those for today, but in the future. So to our viewers, remember, it's never too late to live and learn. Thank you.
Aging Partners has relocated to Victory Park, 600 South 70th Street, just east of the old VA hospital. Follow the signs around the south part of the building complex and enter under the Aging Partners sign on the east side of the facility. The new fitness center is equipped with state-of-the-art cardio and fitness equipment. Caseworkers and resource specialists are available to assist you with a variety of aging issues. Enjoy a hot lunchtime meal and engage with others in a variety of activities. Aging Partners, now at Victory Park.
Hi everybody, welcome to Live and Learn. As usual, I really want to thank our producers and the folks who helped put the show together, the Aging Partners and the great professionals at LNK TV. We really appreciate their work on all of this. My guest today is Grant Reiner, and he's a producer with Platte Basin Timelapse at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And we're going to be talking about the connections between art and wildlife and conservation. So Grant, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Kim.
Thanks. So full disclosure, Grant and I are colleagues at Platte Basin Timelapse, but his affiliation is much longer and much bigger role than mine. So give me the elevator description of what Platte Basin Timelapse is and maybe what you do there.
Yeah, so PBT, Platte Basin Timelapse, was started in 2011 by conservation photographer Michael Forsberg and veteran filmmaker Michael Farrell. And the project is centered around the question, where does our water come from? So we have roughly 60 plus time-lapse cameras located throughout Wyoming, Colorado, and Nebraska, capturing change over time to help us answer the question, where does our water come from? But it's also, this project is focused on building community and telling stories around these cameras throughout the watershed.
And so the cameras take film,
They take photos.
Stills,
they take stills every hour of every day, 24/7, except for at night. And they're powered by solar panels, and some of them are connected to cellular networks, and others we have to go out and manually swap cards and then take it back, and everything gets dumped on our server, and then we put together time lapses.
From your kabillion images.
Yes, from our 4.5 million images so far.
Wow. And I know that we have some images that we're going to show, including an image from the first camera, which is at Rose Sanctuary out by Gibbon?
out by Gibbon. Yeah, it's Audubon's Rose Sanctuary. It was the first camera that was put into place back in 2011. And ever since, it's been there taking a photo every hour of daylight.
And some of them are live cams, right? So you can watch, see what's happening.
We do have a few live cameras. Some of them are out on the Central Platte, and others are on a beaver lodge or underwater at a beaver lodge, out in the Nebraska Sandhills, on Lake McConaughey, out at the Kiewit Luminarium on the Missouri River as well.
Yeah. And so tell me about your affiliation. What do you do with the group?
Yeah, I started with PBT back in 2017 as an undergraduate student. I was a production intern while I was studying fisheries and wildlife. And then I got a Master's of Applied Science with an emphasis in science communication with PBT, where I developed educational short films for the Wildcat Hills Nature Center out in western Nebraska. And now, ever since I graduated with my master's, I am a full-time producer at Platte Basin Timelapse.
So the Platte Basin Timelapse, in my sort of affiliation, I see it as organization that really tries to kind of bridge the gap between the natural world and the human touch world, I guess is the way to put it. And just, you know, how does that work? The work that you do, how are you trying to do that?
Yeah, so 97% of Nebraska is privately owned. So we work a lot with landowners and non-governmental agencies that want stories told. Maybe it's about management practices on their properties, or it's about migration that happens through their properties. And so we really try and bridge the gap between research and science and landowners and the natural history of the Platte Basin and beyond, and really try and create those connections and bridge those gaps between the science world, the cultural world, the historical world, you know, blending art and science. And
I know that there's been efforts to start telling more stories about indigenous people, particularly with your work up. Remind me where you were.
We were up
in Niobrara. Is that by there?
Up at the Santee Sioux Nation. Yes, yeah, we are in future collaboration with the Santee Sioux with their Office of Environmental Protection, but also in collaboration with Nebraska Indian Community College. So that's been really exciting, and there will be more to come with that. We're in talks with installing more time-lapse cameras out across their reservation, and yeah, it's a fun time.
Yeah, that's really interesting, kind of a new thing for y'all. So the latest film that y'all have put out, and I know we've done what last year was the wetlands focus. The latest film is called Under the Wire. And tell me just 2 seconds about that, and then I think we're going to watch a clip from Under the Wire, and then we'll come back and talk about the importance of that.
So Under the Wire is a film about a pronghorn migration that happens from essentially North Park, Colorado, down into the Saratoga Flats. And Mike Forsberg, the conservation photographer and co-founder of Platte Basin Timelapse, was invited out onto these ranches to help them document this pronghorn migration across their lands, specifically on these pinch points where they move and they're hindered by fence lines. And so the goal of these cameras were to find out where these animals move, what are their boundaries and limitations to crossing these fence lines, and how can those landowners help them move across their landscape.
Right. I know that people think of pronghorns as being sort of bouncy and jumpy, but they can't jump the fences, right?
Yes, they're built to run. They are the second fastest land mammal on Earth.
What's the first fastest? Cheetahs?
I believe it's the cheetah.
Okay.
Yes. But no, they don't like to jump. That's one of their limitations, is they like to go under. Hence, Under the Wire.
Under the Wire. So we're going to roll a clip of Under the Wire from the film, and it's really beautiful. You did a really great job hitching together, I don't know, miles of video, no doubt. So let's roll the film, and afterwards we'll come back and chat about it. That was really beautiful. I love that.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you for showing us. I know that those are just clips from the film, and the film is actually, what, 28 minutes long? Something
Yes,
like that.
yeah, a little under 28 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
And then how can people see the film? It's right now, it lives on PBT's website.
Yes, Under the Wire lives on our website, and it's also on our Vimeo page, but we love the traffic to our website, so if you go and click on our Films tab, it's our featured film.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you hope this film, we talked about how we want it to bridge the gap between science and the community and build community. How do you think this film helps with that?
We really want landowners to realize that there are resolutions to animal conflict movement across their lands. So the hope is just to get people to understand that the wildlife that you see isn't always there. They need space to roam, they need space to move, especially pronghorn. And this film, we hope, will encourage others to look into wildlife-friendly fencing as an option. And I think there's this disconnect about, well, you need to change all of your fence lines. But in reality, you really need to hone in on where those animals move, because they have a historical pathway that they've moved in the past and that they've learned from past movements. And honing in on those spots, you really need to just focus on changing those spaces, not all of your fence lines.
Right, because I'm sure the landowners think, I have 100 miles of fence, this will cost me a lot of money, but actually maybe they only need to change 50 feet, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then besides the pronghorn, does this type of fencing or have to help other animals?
Yeah, it helps mule deer move across a lot more easily, elk, coyotes, you name it, anything that's out there. Having that smooth wire on the bottom of the fence helps animals move through without getting gashes and cuts on their backs.
Yeah, you have some, we didn't see it in the clip, but you have some pretty horrible, sad looking skeletons and torn up antelope or pronghorn that make you just sort of,
yes,
makes you feel sad for them. So, well, I think it's great that you guys have done that. I know that you've also done a lot of more closer to home stuff, like obviously the cranes, but also working up in the sandhills, working with wetlands, telling the story. People think of wetlands as being stinky swamps, but they actually have a purpose. So you want to talk about wetlands for a couple minutes?
Yeah, we recently completed a Wetlands of Nebraska project in collaboration with Nebraska Game and Parks and the Nebraska Fish and Wildlife Research Co-op Unit. And we developed educational films about the different types of wetlands across Nebraska. So playa wetlands, saline wetlands, sandhills, riverine, urban, and
yeah, and I think people here in Lincoln, we don't think of some of the wetland areas just in local parks where you see cattails and stuff. Well, that's a wetland, and there's a purpose for that, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. My coworker Dakota Altman produced the Urban Wetlands film, and he did a wonderful job on highlighting these urban spaces, these urban wetlands, and their benefits to us, both as society, but also their intrinsic values and benefits to wildlife as well.
Yeah, I know that there's a little wetland near me, and there's cattails and stuff, but I think it also functions when the water, if we ever got rain again, when the water comes through the park, the wetlands help soak it up and it doesn't become just a flooded area. So.
Yeah, they help with flood mitigation and all of those other benefits.
And I know you guys recently shot pictures of bison coming back to Pinehurst Park, so you kind of doing it all.
Yeah, we're doing it all, and we've got an upcoming project with whooping cranes, so that's on the horizon and something to keep an eye out for in the next couple years. So we're very excited about that prospect as well.
That'll be a really beautiful project. So, well, Grant, we're out of time. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
I just want to remind our viewers that it's never too late to live and learn about the natural and wild world.
So, I'm playing with the dog, and I get this robocall from the Social Security Administration saying my card had been suspended and I had to call them back immediately. And that's when I remembered a tip from the AARP Fraud Watch Network. Random robocall? This is a Social Security scam.
Recognize fraud sooner,
Robots.
so your money lives longer. The younger you are, the more you need AARP.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Live and Learn. I am your host, Jerry Renaud. We have a wonderful guest for you today. It is Tito Vigan. He is the new community health educator and personal fitness trainer at Aging Partners. And we want to introduce you to him. He'll be somebody that will be teaching the classes. He is somebody that you can work with over at the fitness center at Aging Partners. And he's really an interesting guy and a good guy. And we want to introduce you to him. Tito, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Good, good. Well, to say the least, you had an interesting path to get to Aging Partners. I just think it's truly fascinating. And so let's talk about a few of those things before we get to what you're actually going to be doing at Aging Partners. So you grew up in Africa.
Yes, you got that right.
In a place, I think it's called Togo, looks like to go, Africa.
Yep.
So tell us what that was like.
Togo is a small country in West Africa. The weather is tropical.
Nice, I like that.
I grew up in Lomé, which is the capital, and it's set by the ocean. It's about like 9 million people.
Wow.
Yeah, and growing up was really hard, and it was tough because I lost my parent at early age, and then I have 3 brothers and 1 sister, and I remember losing both my parents at early age. It was hard on everybody, so my sister had to drop out of school, to take on 2 or 3 jobs to raise or support us, which wasn't really easy because she alone cannot cover the expenses and the costs. So we have to, my brothers and I, we had to skip school to go look for jobs at construction work site, either helping or just helping moving concrete.
Yeah.
And one of our favorite jobs is to go help vendors on street vendors and outdoor market places. It's kind of like a farmer's market, but a bigger version of a farmer's market where there's a lot of vendors and street vendors and buyers and sellers. So we'll help them set up the table and then food and everything. And at the end of the day, they'll give us a little bit of food and then exchange it for money, with
Very
money.
Good. Yeah.
So
very cool. So it's an interesting place language-wise, is it not? You speak a number of languages, and I think some of that came about from being in Africa there.
Yeah. There's a multiple language, spoken. We got French, Mina, which is Ewe, and we got Kabye. It just keep going on and on.
Wow. Interesting times. So, did you have any interest in fitness at that point in time in Africa?
Oh yes, I did. My brothers and I, because we love exercising so much that we made a weight out of concrete, and
wow.
Just playing with it all day long. So that was really cool.
Huh. Okay, so an interesting start there. Okay, let's move on a little bit because you had a job, and I think this is just. I don't even know how to describe this job and what it must be like, but you were a security guard on an oil tanker, and your job was to look for pirates. Now that sounds just incredibly dangerous.
It is. Like I said earlier, you cannot underestimate, the power of somebody who got nothing to lose. Like growing up, it was already rough, so we were desperate, we were just trying to make it through. It was a survival mode, so we were ready to do everything. But it was a scary job, and it was also really, fun job, because you go on the sea for 3 months and working on a ship, and you come back for a month and then you go again. But it was one of the coolest things that I ever done in my life, because we get to like work on a ship from all over the world, Philippines, India, German, France. We get to hang out with different people, different from different background, and most importantly, try different food.
Right. Yeah, you said that was a great way to learn how to adapt into a new location, and understand what people were eating.
Yes, you got that right.
Okay, so you're on the ship, you're doing this, and you're sort of having fun, I guess. And on one of these trips back home, you met this woman, and that changed your life. Tell us about that.
My wife and I, we met on a blind date set up by my brother and his girlfriend. I remember on our first date, we just sat on the beach, eating potato chip and just talk about our differences, our values and character, and how we're gonna move, forward. Just talking about the future, and I mean, it was a mind blowing, because I just met the person.
Right.
So moving forward, she, we both know that, we knew back then that we're gonna be together.
Right. So you're in Africa and you meet this girl from Omaha, Nebraska, who is there teaching English, I guess is what it is, and you make this connection, and you decide the opportunity is so great that you want to come to the United States. So you end up in San Francisco. And what did you do in San Francisco?
Actually, when I landed, I moved with my in-law, which is not San Francisco, but I moved straight to Lincoln, Nebraska. Oh. It was kind of like a tryout. So I lived with my folks for a month before I moved to San Francisco. Oh, okay. But I remember when I got here first, to Lincoln, Nebraska, it was mid-December, and the next day snowed.
Oh, yes.
I was really, really, for somebody who grew up in a tropical, never experienced this winter, I was cold, tired, and exhausted.
I grew up here, and I'm cold and tired and exhausted during the winter, so I understand.
My in-law, they were worried about me, and they were like, oh, you brought this guy, you sure about that? They didn't think I was going to make it, but, I understand that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think I was going to make it if it wasn't for, the fact that I know that, I got nothing to lose. This is the move for me, I'm all in, all out.
Right. Right. Yeah, and you were on an interesting visa because it was a 90-day fiancé visa, so you had to decide in 90 days, is this the woman for me or isn't it? And you decided that it was, and everything has worked out great. You lived in San Francisco for a while. You also had another interesting job there where you worked on Alcatraz.
Yeah, when I moved to San Francisco, I was intern with the National Park Service. And one of the job is to work in Alcatraz every day. And then the job description was about to preserve the historic landmark, Alcatraz. So we take the boat every day and just go and work all day long and take the boat back, which was surprisingly, an amazing job, thinking about 5,000, tourists every day on the island. I feel like that's the right place to be. It was really cool.
Yeah. Okay. You made your way back to Lincoln. I think your wife wanted to be a little closer to her parents. And you took some interesting jobs. You were a fitness trainer at a couple of the places here in town. And then something happened that also, I'm guessing, was a little change in your life. Where you became paralyzed.
Yeah, that was surprisingly, it hasn't been that long ago. It was March 6, 2023, and I was getting ready for a bodybuilding competition, and just collapsed, working out, and just, I was paralyzed from the waist down, and it was due to a stroke down the spinal cord. Spent about 3 weeks, a month at the hospital, and ended up, doing a lot of physical therapy. Then, I was in a wheelchair for a little while, and moved from a wheelchair to forearm crutches. Moved from that to like a cane, using a cane. I made it out, because I was a personal trainer. I was a hard worker, but not only that, I had like all the best, like people in my corner. I have like nice friends, family, like all the, skilled physical therapists.
Right. Yeah, it's sort of one of these incidents sometimes where people realize how valuable life is, how short it can be, and how it can change in an instant. You're a pretty strong-willed person in that regard. To have gone through that and to come out, and now you say that you're pretty much back to normal at this point in time.
Thank you. Almost there.
Almost.
There.
Okay.
Almost
well, nobody really wants.
Slowly but surely.
Nobody wants to be totally normal. Okay, so you you sort of had this epiphany with your wife's parents. They're a little older, obviously, and you sort of started working with them and seeing where the importance and the value of fitness for older folks as well is so important.
Moving back to Lincoln, we knew we want to be close to my wife's parent, and if possible, even live with them. So I took a job, working as a personal trainer at Genesis Health Club, and one of the things, is that I love the most is coming back home and be able to help them. Either, my father-in-law had a hip replacement. And even though he was going, through a physical therapy, I was there to strengthen, with, like him, giving him like exercise. Either it's like stretching him out, and helping my mother-in-law at the same time. Kind of make me realize that I wanted to do something more, more helping, like seniors as much as I can, not
Sure.
just both of them. But yeah, I want to like upgrade it.
Right. Very good. So you are a personal fitness trainer, so that's going to be at least part of what you're going to be doing at Aging Partners. So if anybody goes down to the fitness center, they can come in and say, come help me. But you're also going to be teaching some of the classes. Is that a sort of a new thing for you? You looking forward to that?
That's kind of super excited. I'm really excited about it. Be able to like either substitute for a Qigong classes, and getting ready to early December. I'll be teaching yoga and to seniors, and also getting ready to be teaching a strong body. Few classes. That's what I was looking for. So it's really exciting. Looking forward to it.
Have you had much background in yoga, or done it for a while, or Qigong, or is it kind of a new thing, and are you excited about that?
It is new, and even it is sort of new things, that new direction that I want to head out. So I'm heading to, and then knowing me, I'm always about learning new things and then putting them to skill.
Right. Very good. Well, we are absolutely delighted that you're going to be at Aging Partners. I am very much looking forward to taking some of your classes, and I'm guessing that you will be creating some newer classes as well in some areas where you have some expertise as well.
Yeah, I think everybody is excited in the health and fitness department, about me joining and pitching as much as I can. So we are looking forward to me just teaching some of those classes and then substitute as much as I can.
Very good. Tito, thanks for coming by today and giving our audience a chance to get to know you, and I'm sure they'll get to know you a little bit better as the time goes on. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome, Jerry. Thank you so much for having me.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in. I am your host, Jerry Renaud. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and remember, it's never too late to live and learn.